Welcome, everybody. And it is me. It is the Cyber Warrior. This is Cyber Warrior Studios. And as always, I know you're here for our guests. You're here for Security Happy Hour. You don't want to hear me. I know. So look, this is what I'm going to do. We have an amazing show planned, and I love you all. So please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all those fun things you haven't done yet. And we will be back here in just a second. And we're back. That's right. My sexy face is all right here. But anyways, look, hey, check it out. Today, we've got Brandon Corbin, joining us for Security Happy Hour. Now, I'll give you a little rundown, and then he's going to give his spiel, his story, his background, and we'll run from there. But Brandon is an IT veteran. He's been in IT for a little while now, and he's trying to break into cybersecurity. Everybody who thinks it's easy breaking in just coming from IT doesn't understand that it's not always simple, no matter what field you come from. We've heard a lot of stories about people from, baristas like Alyssa Miller and other areas in marketing and sales and all these people that talk about the difficulties. It's one of the things we very rarely talk about, but we're going to talk about today is that difficulty transitioning from IT. So saying that, Brandon, please give us the rundown, who you are, what you do, and what you're trying to do.
Hi everyone. How are y'all doing tonight? Brandon Corbin, currently working as a field service rep. Have spent a little time in help desk. Probably one of my most recent things is I've been with my current company a little less than 20 months, and I've been promoted from a Tech 1 to a Tech 3. So I've been promoted twice. So catch on really quick, learn pretty fast, but just some of the things that I've ran into, which I'm sure it's similar issues for a lot of us out there, is I learned the hard way. Don't search chase. You can cram the information, you can learn it long enough to pass a test, but if you're not using it day to day, which most of us aren't because we're trying to break in, then you'll lose it. So a big thing for sure is consistency. I've got to where now, I follow certain people on a daily basis. I watch the daily cyber threat briefing. If I don't catch it live, then I go back and watch it, and just things like that have helped me keep my mental focus on ultimately where I want to go and what I want to do in cybersecurity. I've tried some of the, hack the box things. Did a couple of them. Red team wasn't really what I like, So got turned on to a cool GRC masterclass course. And
Gerald Auger.
Yes, sir. Went through that, and that was kind of interesting. I did a little, I was an inspector for some time back in my early career days, so paid close attention to detail in that job. Had to do write-ups on certain things, give it back to mechanics, then go back and make sure that they fix whatever I wrote up. So it's like, that's kind of interesting. So started looking into that a little bit more. Somebody, I forgot, I was watching a show the other day, and so I know one of the things that I have, trouble with is hands-on. A lot of times in order to get labs or things like that, it's going to cost you. Well, everybody's trying to save as much as they can. So whenever I hear of a free resource that I think's good for me, like as soon as I get finished watching whatever podcast it is, I go right and sign up and start checking it out. So I believe it's Let's Defend is the newest one that I've been kind of tinkering around with. some of the stuff that's beginner, I know, some of it I don't, So instead of going in and like, oh, I'm a field rep 3, this, I'll start at the beginning, because I really want to learn it all, and to the best of my ability, so that whenever that door does open, that I'll be able to step in and add value. I think that's one of the hardest things in tech, really, is for a company to see you as more than just an expense. Most of the times, tech's like,
Just a number.
you
It's
just
a
you
number,
just
and usually it's a negative number too, like
right,
negative
right. But
$80,000 a year is what they see.
but then when something breaks or whatever, then all of a sudden, you're the hero.
Yeah, for sure, and that's the way. It's been like that in IT. Now, IT and help desk was always, if it's broken, you're the enemy, even though you didn't break it. But if it's broken, you're the enemy. But then if you fix it, you're the hero. But they only remember your like last bad deed. They never remember you could do a million things of good shit, but they don't remember it. They remember all the network went down, so we're screwed.
Right. So yeah, that's one of the things, just let's say here. And just on the search, like I've got my AWS solutions architect. Same thing. Like study my
What
tail
was that?
off.
AWS solutions architect?
Yeah, I mean study my tail off.
But
Learned
that's
it.
worthwhile to have though. Like it's just a matter of getting back in there and playing with it. Now let me ask you a question with that though, Brandon. Are you the type of, because there's two types of people out there that I believe like that truly love tech. There's the ones that if they study it and learn it and actually grasp the concepts and the hands-on part of it, right? They did the hands-on portions, they learned it. They may forget it, but it's not that they forgot it. It's just buried. So once they start doing it again, it all comes back and clicks. It may take a little bit, but it clicks and it's easier
Oh
to
yeah,
understand.
yeah, definitely. If and I mean, there's still some things, around VPCs, EC2 instances, things like that. Like, yeah, I can talk it, but it's more or less is, I guess you would say, and I'm guilty of this. I'll be honest. Like, you get that cert and you be like, "Hey, man, I'm fixing to go get that 6-figure gig."
I
It
wish it was that easy.
usually doesn't happen that way. I mean,
Even with my CISSP, my first job wasn't a 6-figure gig after I got that.
So that was one thing. I mean, it's a hard pill to swallow, because you see other people that have these success stories, and all I can say is celebrate them. Celebrate those success stories, because yours is coming. And as long as you don't give up. I've made it to the gauntlet round of interviews at AWS. Didn't get the job. I've made it to a couple internal interviews and was just the number 2 candidate. So yeah, does it sting a little bit? Of course, but at the same time, like, I'm not where I was when I first started. Like, and that's something, like, enjoy where you're at. Yeah, like, we always want to do more and do better, but realize that, like, where you're at right now, there's somebody else that wishes they were where you're at. They're trying to get to where
Yep.
you're at. So, I try to keep that in the front of my mind, is like, hey, it's a journey. Like, it's not gonna
Yep.
happen overnight. You're doing good. Stay the course.
And not only that, and here's the big thing that people tend to forget is it's not a lot of times it's either like they didn't sell themselves right, because it happens. They don't give themselves credit, or they're afraid to say I don't know, so they just try to bullshit their way through an interview. That happens. But when that doesn't happen, when it's just not the right fit, or they've gone through 100 resume submissions and didn't hear anything back, like, all right, is it the companies you're applying to, or is it the resume? Is it you're not actually really looking at things? Now, for you who got the interview, you're right. It could be a multitude of things. It could be experience, it could be knowledge, it could be whatever. I can list a slew of things that it could be. But But at the end of the day, then all that means is that wasn't the right job for you. And that's really how I look at everything into the job hunt. Because I went through applying for 50, 100, 200. I don't even know how many jobs I applied for as I was getting out of the Army. But I look at it as then it's not the job for me. Either I don't have the right experience or they're not going to appreciate me anyway. So what the hell do I care? Like, it doesn't matter. I'm going to find that job. I'm going to sell myself. And that's how people need to look at it is, you know what? Regardless of why they disqualified you, and it could be some fucked up reasons, it could be some good reasons.
Right.
Whatever the reason, that wasn't the job for you. That wasn't where you need to be. You will find the job you need to be at. You just need to keep going.
That's it.
And as long as you keep learning on that journey and you keep pushing yourself to know more, you'll get there. It's going to be hard. It's going to be a bitch. No one's saying it's going to be easy.
Yeah, it's not easy by a long shot.
But you got to keep pushing forward. Again, coming out of the Army with like 8 certs, it took me, I retired. I came home in June. Didn't have a job when I retired. July, August, September. August. Something about almost 6 months to get a job. My first job out of the Army. It took me 6 months. With like 8 certifications and experience in the Army. So it could be a variety of things. And my first job out the Army with all the certifications only paid $60 grand a year. So for all those looking for fucking, I'm gonna make $100,000 my first job in cyber. Bullshit. Not always. If you're starting at the bottom,
if
guess what?
Kudos to you. You know, I'm happy for you. You know, but
Right?
I'm telling you, like it's not as easy as some make it seem to be. You know, and
Yep.
I think that kind of, you know, just try not to compare your journey to anybody else.
Don't
You
compare
know?
your day 1 to someone's day 1,000.
Yeah, you can't do that, man, because you'll be down on yourself all the time. Like I mean, like I said, motivation. If you're not a person that can self-motivate, find you somebody to follow that motivates you. That, I mean, like, we got a perfect guy. We got a perfect guy right here on the screen with us, you know. But yeah,
I only do that on Mondays and Wednesdays. I'm just saying. Wait. If you're on LinkedIn, I may put a post out during the week, but it happens. Oh, wait, Brian Kemper got it right here. Find your why.
yeah.
Oh, does that? That speaks to my soul because me and Erica both talked about it. Find your why. Why are you doing this? So let me ask you, Brandon, now that he put that, what is your why for getting into cybersecurity? And most specifically, because you said you don't like the red team. To you, it just doesn't speak to you. It doesn't speak to what you want to do. So why cybersecurity? Why GRC?
So I would say, for one, I like helping people, and I guess you'd say I'm a somewhat of a natural defender. I'm the little brother, but I've always been, you know, like the protector. So, kind of in the, I guess that's speaking more to the blue team aspect. You know, on the defense of protecting assets, protecting your data, things of that nature. So, I'm not nothing against red team. Like I said, just didn't speak to me as much as blue team does. You know,
Yep.
and as far as like the GRC, I realized that, you know, that's a field that has I won't say it's easy to get into, but it is, you don't have near as many people trying to do GRC as you do SOC analysts. You know, it's kind of one of those things where you got to be targeted. GRC may not be ultimately where you want to end up at the end of your career or top of the mountain, however you want to look at it. But it may be the foot in the door to allow you to make the moves that you want to move to ultimately reach your end goal. So, like I said, I follow several people, Mike, of course, you know, and I'm one, you know, I'm for trying different things. Like, if what I've been trying hasn't been working, and somebody else is like, hey, maybe you want to look at it this way, I'm all for that because they see something, or of course they have tons more years of experience than I do. So like I, I don't mind learning from someone else's experiences and failures. That way I don't have to make the same one, because there's several things that I wish I would have known at the beginning of my journey. Kind of like the cert chasing. Yeah, it's good, but gets expensive. And then if you're not using them, you just, they're just,
I played that game.
yeah, hang them on the wall, but on the other note to that, like if you have a say your job offers training, anything like that, leverage that, use it. My AWS. And the only thing I would say about that, the only thing I regret is I wish I would have checked the tech stack at our job a little bit closer, because we don't use AWS, we use Azure. So it would have been smarter for me to go the Azure route in my current company versus AWS, but they still pay for my certification either way. So it's not like I totally lost money or anything like that. But I got that, I want to say December of last year. And it was really because I said, like, man, you need to get a cert a year. Like you just you gotta stay on it. So I pushed myself at the very end of the year. New Year's Eve, I'm taking a test instead of celebrating, because I put
Did you
this.
celebrate after the test?
I did.
There you go.
Yeah. It was one of those things where like I started studying for it and then stopped. So I'm like, man, if I schedule the test, then I know that I'll do it. I'll bear down and do it because I know this day's coming. Whereas if I'm like, oh, I'm studying, I'm gonna take it one day. It's like I can keep pushing that deadline out.
Yeah, you can't do that. It's got to be, and that's so like when I was in the army and I was doing my SAN certifications, going through the schoolhouse. It was a week of training, a week of like net wars. Then you took the test that Saturday. There was no break. There was no I'll schedule. It was no. This is when you're taking it. You have no choice. And even when I went through like my CEH training and CPT, my certified pen tester through ICRB with Infosec Institute, it was the same thing. Like, hey, we're going to take this week. We're going to take this, or this day. We're going to take this day. And then you have to do the practical for the CPT afterwards. Like, you have no choice. That's the only time you can do it because you have a month to turn in the report. I was like, okay, cool. The ones where it was like, hey, go through and do it, everything was fresh, right? So everything's fresh in your mind. So it makes it easier. But then B, you're doing things hands-on that you may not be doing after the fact, and you're forced to sit down and study and learn it and know it. Now, to your point, if you don't do it after the fact, you're going to forget it all. Or at least, a good majority of it.
Right. I mean, it'll come back, maybe just depending on how well you know it, but I definitely think that's a challenge, especially if you, man, you got wife, kids, family, do things, outside of work and try to study, that's a full plate. So it's hard to hit it every day, but no matter what, like I said, the daily cyber threat briefing, that's been like game changer for me. Like, I mean, I look forward to it every morning. Just kind of start my day off, get my mind in that cybersecurity mode, and then, like, of course, my work is not really cyber related. So if I got a busy day, I may not get to do much studying or anything like that, but any free time I get, I try to utilize it to, for one, I'm still learning steps. So if, say, cybersecurity doesn't come up, like, I'm still making the necessary steps to where I can move up in my current career,
Right.
you know, without, because who knows? Like I said, it could be a year and a half before that cybersecurity role comes out.
And
So
that's the big thing that some people forget is like it's difficult to transition, regardless of what your role is, because you want to be able to move up and get promoted no matter what role you're in. So you've got to excel at your current career. And then at the same time, you got to study for the career you actually want. You've got to be able to make that headway. And so some people forget that and they like kind of leave one thing to the side and go into the other. And especially like my position, I believe yours, Brandon, because you were talking about having a family and things like that that make it harder. You know, when you have that family, like I would have to wait till my kids went to bed for me to spend an hour or two a night studying and working at shit. So like it's not easy. It's very difficult. And to be honest, it is very draining. Very, very draining. But you have to take the good with the bad. So you kind of weigh your options. Like, do I study and get to where I want to be? Or do I live a life of fucking bullshit, monotony, and shit I never want to do for the rest of my life, but still have to do for the rest of my life because I'm here? Like, you gotta
so
look at it.
one of the good things about that is luckily, of course, my wife's super supportive, but my kids are somewhat interested in tech too. So, you know, I kind of use it as a time for them to kind of see what I'm doing. You know, they don't really per se know. They may see me messing around with the command line or something like that. But I mean, of course, you know, they're watching everything that we do. So um, that's something, if nothing else, like I tell my son all the time, like, man, I want you to be like an engineer. I want you to go build something, do great things. And he's seen me go back to school. He's seen me just do self-learning. And that's just, those are things that I want them to see, like, hey, man, my dad, he was, even when we were in school, he was still in school. So that way they'll know, hey, man, you got to keep learning. It's not a, oh, I got here, now I'm done. Like, no, it's, you got to keep going.
Yeah, definitely. And so with that though, for you, I know it does for me. I don't know if it does for you, but for you, does it feel like a catch 22? Because these days we are very big into mental health, right? And you know, I'm 35 years old. Growing up, even my dad said, work hard, work hard, work hard. You got to grind, you got to do this, you got to do that, and you got to keep pushing and da 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 da. And so you saw this grind culture of like working 18-hour days. In the military, you worked hours upon hours. They'd be like, oh, you're getting off at 5, 9 o'clock, you're finally walking off out the office, like son of a bitch. So like you see this, and then you kind of like do it yourself. So even though you don't want your kids to do the same thing, right? You want to make mental health important. But when you're grinding and doing things like 10, 15-hour days, like between work and study and everything else, and taking that time away from your family, do you really want your kids to be in that position? And that's the hard part I have in that situation in looking at it is like, I want more time to spend with my kids and do things. But at the same time, my mental health, my peace of mind, my ability to be a father comes into play. It's hard enough physically, let alone mentally when I'm drained and I'm like, I just want to lay on the couch and not move.
All right.
I
So,
can't do that.
you know, couple of outlets for me on that aspect is, you know, I help coach my son's tackle football team. So that's a
Nice.
that's a complete like down, don't talk about tech, you know, anything like that. And yeah, mental health is definitely important to me as well. Like normally when I get home from work, I try to take like the first 30 minutes just to decompress and relax. That way I can get out of work mode and get into daddy mode. You know,
Yeah.
does it always happen like that? No, but I do try to be conscious of my mental health. You know,
Mhm.
and try not. You know, if I'm tired and I don't, you know, I try not to. You don't want to make it a habit. You know, but
Right.
at the same time, you got to learn to give yourself a little grace. Can't be too hard on yourself. You know, we're usually our own biggest critics. kind of like the whole imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
You know, you're most of the time you're capable and more talented than you give yourself credit.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And that's the big thing though. Like I seen some stuff today, and they're not wrong with the diversity and everything else in the industry right now that is severely lacking. You have people that are afraid to put themselves out there because they're afraid to hear no because of the way they look. Right? Oh, I look this way, so they're going to tell me no anyway. So why the fuck would I even try? So like that is a huge problem. But then with imposter syndrome now you have because of how I look, and now I don't even feel like I know this shit. So now it's twofold, right? So it's one of those things where it's bad enough for me dealing with imposter syndrome, looking at shit my boss knows and my boss's boss, and GRC people who are extremely intelligent, and I'm looking at it, and there's times I look at it and go, what the fuck am I doing? Like, why am I doing this? Because they know 10 times more than me. But then you see other people and they're like, why am I here? Why do I'll never get this job because of X, Y, and Z. And so it's hard because that shit beats on you, man. It just beats you down. And when you have two things going against you, the diversity side on top of imposter syndrome, it makes it even worse.
Yeah, for sure. You know, like I say, and I think that's where your support system definitely comes in. Somebody to pick you up, and when I say support, I'm not necessarily talking about like family, more or less like a peer. You know, somebody that understands the more intricate day in and day outs of the technology world, because you know
Right.
your family, you can come in and talk to them about certain things, but some of it is going to go straight over their head. So definitely good support system, good peers. Find you a mentor. I don't have one per se, or I take that back. They don't know that they're my mentors, but they're my mentors because I follow them, and I genuinely trust that they're doing great things for the community. Like, I mean, they could, like you said, they could be in a silo, but they're out here trying to help people every day.
Yeah, definitely. And that's one of the big things, right? Like we look at it and I see so many people and that don't feel like they're doing much, right? That they try to help people, but they're not they're not actively like reaching out or like professionally mentoring someone. Like they're not having these one-on-one conversations and mentoring people and things of that nature. It's more, hey, I'm gonna give you some advice to the broad public, and then whoever takes it, whoever doesn't. And so they don't feel like a mentor. And it's funny because like Meryl Vernon reached out to me. Well, actually, when I had her on my 100th episode 2 weeks ago, we were talking, and she said, "Well, who are you mentoring, or are you mentoring anyone?" I said, honestly, not like on a professional level. Like I'm not sitting here one on one like once a month or once a week talking to people one on one, but more like I'm here for questions and answers. Right? If someone comes to me and says, "Hey, I need some advice. I need to do this, that, and the third," but because of my time constraints with full-time job, family, content creation, and everything else, it's one of those things where it's like I don't have the time of day to sit down and guarantee someone 1 hour every week or 1 hour every month. I just don't. I got 5 boys. I'm always running around. I'm always doing something.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that I'm just like, look, the what free time I have, I got to take for me. I got to be upstairs. I got to be doing something that is not cyber or IT related at all. I got to be away. And so some people don't understand that.
Right. And I think that's why I haven't, just tried to, I guess you'd say, lock in a mentor, because, I got twins. So it's always something going on. If my son
wishes he was a twin.
yeah. It's like I said, it's pretty hectic around here. As far as time schedules. So I like I said, I follow the individuals that I follow. Even that.
So who are some of them besides Mike Miller?
So Dr. Gerald,
Okay.
for sure. Follow him. Mick Merritt, Kev, IT support, Kev Tech. Watch some of his
That's my
videos.
boy. I love Kev.
Yeah, definitely.
He still wants me in New York. It ain't gonna happen. I don't like New York.
Uh, he's doing great things. I've had a talk with him. See who else? Dewan Lightfoot, Lab every day. Follow him. Had some good conversations with Henry Davis. He's I want to say H or textual consultant. I'm not for sure, but he puts a lot of content out there around SOC analysts and things like that. Just different cybersecurity topics. Follow him. My guy, Mr. Unpopular Opinion with the beard.
Josh Copeland, man, he's awesome. I love him.
Hey, those unpopular opinions sometimes are hard to swallow, but at the same time, that's what you need, you know.
But he's honest and he comes through, and you know, in the same vein as like Mike Miller, Kev Tech, Josh, like JJ Davey, Merrill Vernon, like all these people, they put out information that sometimes you don't want to fucking hear, but it's the truth, and so it's considered unpopular because people aren't going to like it. Like the fact of, hey, homie, you need a custom resume for every single job you apply for. What? Yeah, I'll be the first one to tell you, I made that mistake of sending my resume, the exact same resume, to a million different companies. It's fucking happened. Like, you put a resume on Indeed and you just hope somebody catches it. It's the same resume, a million different companies. All you're clicking is apply. Like, is it catered? Like, no. So, again, these things are just like, you got to work at it. And some people don't want to hear that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it hadn't fell in my lap yet. That's all I can say. I mean, like, everything that I've had to, you know, for the most part, learn is I've had to go out there and get it, you know. Nobody's gonna, I won't use that term, but there has to be a certain amount of want to from you in order to be successful.
For sure. There's got to be that will, right? That drive, that passion. And in this industry, it has burned me before in terms of I have felt other people did not have the same drive for the career that I had. And so it held back their learning, their capability to learn, because they were relying on their time at work to only learn, right? And so for me, like I was told, hey, I was asked, like, you know, how do you know all this? How do you do all this and stuff like that? And if I didn't see that passion in you, like I would tell people, look, when I go home, it isn't, I'm going to sit down and like have dinner with the family. I'm going to go home and my mind's going to be on what I need to do that night. And I'm going to take 2 hours a night, every night to study. And it's like, well, what do you do? Well, you know, I eat dinner, I play with the family, I do this, that, and the third, and then I go to bed. Are you studying at all? No. Then you don't have the drive. You don't have the passion. And that isn't necessarily true, but that in my younger days, that's how I felt. Was like, well, they just didn't have the drive to do it. But the flip side to that is their mental health is probably a hell of a lot better than mine was.
Like, yeah, you know, you got to take that into consideration. Like, and of course, like, I mean, I grew up in that same time frame, a couple years older than you, but I mean, my dad was the same way. Like, work from sun up to sundown. Like, that was just what you did. Funny thing is, my dad, he didn't want me really fooling with computers as a youngster. You know, he was all.
I had to. I was forced to.
Yeah,
Actually, that's a lie. I wasn't forced to. I broke the computer at like 8 years old, and my dad was like, "We're gonna fix this shit," and I was like, "All right, cool." Because if I ain't never gonna break another one, and so I learned to fix them. And then my dad never touched the shit again. Like he played games and stuff like that, but he never like went beyond. So now that he's in GRC, like when he was looking for work after he got his CEH, I looked at him and I was like, "Oh man, do not and let me try to state this as best I can. Do not get a job with your hands on equipment. Lo and behold, he's doing great things in GRC. But that was because I knew him. Like, that's my dad. I know him and equipment don't get along. Don't play that game. You do GRC. You don't try to break into shit. You're gonna get yourself in trouble. But I mean, it's just one of those things. You got to know your limits, and I knew his, and I was like, don't apply to that job. You
Right.
do governance. You're great at that. Don't fucking try to break into shit.
Don't break anything. Yeah. So, I don't know. Like I said, it's definitely not easy. There'll be days when you'll be like, man, what? Like, is this what I really want to do? But you gotta keep trugging along. Like, I mean, I worked at the same company for 14 and a half years.
Yeah.
And was very successful, was a manager at one point in time. But I was 33 years old, was at the top of my pay grade, and I was miserable. I got sick every day on my way to work, like literally physically sick because I wasn't happy. Whereas now, in my job every day, I know what I'm doing makes a difference. Like,
yeah,
I know what I can show you exactly. Like, if this right here is not working, then there's going to be a whole bunch of people worldwide, international, that's going to be mad, and,
yep.
and I think that kind of goes back to the, find your why, it's hard to say find your why when, or I won't say find it. It's hard to quantitate it whenever you're just say help desk. It's like I answer the phone, reset a password, but it's hard to really say like, hey, that's saving the company or that's doing this for the company. But like what I do now, if a piece of equipment goes down and there's certain parts of the process that doesn't run, like they'll call me at 8:00 at night to go out and fix it.
Yep. And that's a big thing. Like I've been there, right? So when I got in the military back in early 2000s, it was I was doing help desk, I was doing system administration, but I never felt like I was part of something. So like I was at the time before I went active duty Army, I was in the Air Force, and it was like, oh, we're gonna take you on these rides so you can see how you're supporting the mission and da 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 da. But even then, working help desk and helping people unlock their computers, because I can give you horror stories about some of the dumbest shit I ever heard in my life. I love those people, but man, were they not technically savvy. Like you'd look at it and go, I'm not fucking doing anything. I don't feel like I'm giving any value. Okay, I'm unlocking a computer that they can check email and do dumb shit. Like, yes, it was part of the MySpace era. So, you can go on MySpace or YouTube or whatever. But then I went in the Army and I was like, I want to make a difference. Like, that was my whole point to go into the military. It was I wanted to help my country. I wanted to make a difference. And I never felt like I was. No matter what I had to do, I never felt like I was actually impacting anything. And so, because everything we worked on was unclassified, nippernet, like the bullshit. And it was, okay, you can go on Facebook and peruse the interwebs, something that has absolutely nothing to do with whatever. So I never felt valued. And so when I got medically retired, I was like, I need a job where I feel like I can actually impact people. And I'm gonna be honest, the way I have seen some companies approach cybersecurity, I feel like I'm not doing anything. I'm like, what the fuck's the point of me being here? But I will say this. This show is what keeps me going. Because this show shows I don't have to help a company, but I'll help people. I'll help that individual person. And that's what matters.
Yeah.
Companies aren't going to, they either listen or they don't. But the people, as long as they find success, that's what matters.
Yeah. So. Definitely. For sure. I mean, like I said, man, this is our first time talking tonight, and I mean, you reached out to me, or actually I reached out to you. We made a connection, and then here we are, So That's another thing. It's hard to get out of your shell. I'll be the first to tell you, like, I'd love to just kind of stay behind the scenes and do my thing, but once again, that hadn't been working for me. So here I am. I
Yep.
changed course, and we'll do something different.
Yep.
And being adaptable is definitely a good quality to have.
Adapt
Be
and overcome,
flexible.
homie. Adapt and overcome.
That's it. That's it. That's it, man. Like, you just got to do it. And as far as like, sometimes if you want to move up in your company, like, don't just do your job. Try to take on other stuff. Show them that you want to grow and you want to do more. That's helped me be successful in my current position. Is just by, hey, if they offer something or mentor, do this, do that, I'm the first one to email my manager like, hey, I want to do it. Sign me up. Like, because if you just go to work, do barely what's expected of you, then I mean you're probably not going to progress very fast.
Yeah, definitely. And that's one of the things. So I've talked to a few other people on this show previously, and some of the ways they got ahead was actually reaching out to the cybersecurity teams in their organizations and working with them and be like, hey, look, I just want to ask questions. I just want to learn. Like, I'm not here to do your job. I want to learn. So if I ask you a question, can you answer me? And some of them are egotistical assholes. Let's be honest. They're gonna be like, no, you don't know anything, or you're gonna answer a question and they'll be like, you're an idiot. But then you talk to the right people, and that's what it's about. People are assholes. We all know this. So you find the right person that's gonna help guide you on your journey while you're there, and that's what sometimes you need to do. And they'll be the ones to put in a good word for you and be like, hey, look, we want him.
Yeah.
Like, can we transfer him to this department, please? Like, he's got a passion to learn and he knows his shit. Like, I want him. He could be a level 1, but I want him.
That, and I know some don't, but if you do get a no or a rejection in an interview, try to get feedback. Like,
Yep.
Most people are pretty kind and will kind of tell you like, hey, you may want to strengthen up here, or and sometimes it's not even that you're not qualified. It's just that somebody else that was a little bit better fit was interviewed.
A little bit more.
So, and in that, you just gotta take, like you said earlier, that wasn't for me. Like, yes, it stings, but let it sting for 10 seconds and then move on. Like, on to the next thing.
Yeah, for sure. So Brandon, I got 2 questions here for you, both from Brian. So I'm gonna put you on a big screen. I'm gonna let you answer them both. Number 1 is, how do you feel about cover letters? And number 2 is, what does it mean when they refuse to give feedback?
So I've never had a internal manager refuse to give feedback. But some companies, for instance, like AWS, they tell you from the get-go, like, you won't get any feedback. There's basically going to tell you to go and brush up on their leadership principles, read some more documentation, and then apply again, type of deal. So some just, there is no way to get feedback. And then, I've had some where I reached out to them and I never heard anything, or just got the generic, I don't really have no feedback. They just didn't like you, or I won't say didn't like me because that sounds personal, but I just wasn't the best fit for that position. And so that was the feedback question. And what was that other question?
So the other question was, how do you feel about cover letters?
Oh, cover letters. Oh, man. I mean, I don't like them, but if it's a requirement, I can. I mean, I've had to submit them before, but it's not something that, like, I'm just crazy about. I feel like there's other ways for you to express yourself, or I guess you say. But I know some people they still want a cover letter. I mean, it's kind of like I look at the cover letter kind of like whenever you apply for a job and you upload your resume, and then the next page they want you to enter everything manually. So it's just one of those necessary evils on certain positions.
I will say this: I have never submitted a cover letter. Never. If a job requires a cover letter, I don't apply. That is a position I don't want because they have stipulations that I'm not willing to abide by. It's just how I am. So it really comes down to the person. Like, you already know you're going to submit a resume and fill a million questions, re-answer the same things that are on your resume anyways, because it's going to be poorly filtered out and you're going to have to change a bunch of shit. Why do I want to write a cover letter to then reintroduce myself and state shit already? So if I already got to do a half hour worth of work, why am I going to put another hour into writing a cover letter? Just how I am. I won't apply for a job that requires one. Just me.
Yeah.
But again, for those that do, go for it, especially for some of your higher positions. Like if you're looking at like director, VP, CISO, things like that, a lot of times those cover letters are like absolutely necessary because you're competing against people that have been in that industry and in that field and in that position. And they're just looking for more money. So they're going to give a cover letter to sell themselves for more money.
So definitely in that position, I can see where the cover letter serves more of a purpose. When you start talking about in the more executive level positions and things like that. But, I've seen some positions that were like tier 1 and they want a cover letter. They want to know, why you want to work for this company, so on and so forth. And it's like, I feel like, some of those questions could be answered in the interview, but
right.
That's one of those things I just kind of check, not for me, and keep on moving.
Yeah. So we have another question here. And this one, to me, I have seen this more often than not hit more women than it does men. And that's, what do you do when they say you don't have enough experience and you are thinking of interviewing or don't have all the skills they want? And now Misha, who was on the show last week, I love her. She's amazing. I think is talking about more the job description. I don't know if it's necessarily the interviewer or what have you. I tell people to apply regardless. But what is your take on like a job description or something like that saying you don't have all the skills that they're actually looking for?
So I look at them and I feel like if I got 75 to 80%, and if it's a job that I really want or think I can excel at, if I got 50%, I mean, the worst they can tell me is no, or I don't hear nothing back from them. And I mean, we've all experienced that. So it's like,
Don't hear shit. Look, don't ever apply for a government job and expect to hear back in less than like 8 months.
dude, I worked for the government for 14 years. Like, that's horrible.
Dude, you'll hear back. You'll be working for a place for a year, and they'll be like, "Oh, hey, we decided to hire you." Like, what the hell, dude?
So, but that's, I mean, I know it's hard because like I was in the beginning. If it said bachelor's required, I wouldn't apply just because it said bachelor. But then you see people that say like, "Hey, it said bachelor required," but I got it to the interview and I rocked the interview and I got the job, So I let them tell me no instead of me telling myself no.
And I've seen that a lot is people, whether it's because I seen one, I'm not even gonna get into it. I seen one today and they put themselves out of the running because of reasons. And I get frustrated by that because if you want to make a difference, if you're trying to make a change, if you're trying to prove that people can do a certain job, you have to apply. Regardless of whether or not they're going to tell you no, you have to apply. If you immediately put yourself out of the running for one reason or another, then you're always going to be told no, or you're never going to be able to bridge that gap that you're trying to bridge in the first place. So why not be the first one? Why not be the first one to apply and take a chance? Because if they interview you and they hire you, now you can stand there and say, I did it.
I did it.
You can stand there and say, it is possible for anyone. You just got to find the right company or the right place to work, and you can do it too. And that's the big thing is we take ourselves out of the running. I've looked at CISO jobs before I found the job I have now and taken myself out of the running. But then at the same time, I've looked at other ones. I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I want to work there anyway. So let's just apply.
Right.
Like, I was nowhere near CISO level, but I was like, I want to make bank. Let's just apply. Let's see what happens. Never heard back.
Yeah, that's quite a few I've applied to, and man, I never hear a word, or you get the generic email that hey, thanks for applying. We're going to pursue other candidates at this time. And,
Yep.
like I say, you just gotta let it roll off your back like water on a duck, man, and keep going. That's, like I said, consistency. That's been probably I want one of the biggest things for me is staying consistent, holding myself accountable to, like you said, getting that 2 hours every afternoon, or getting that, you might have to wake up early. You might have to wake up early before work to get some studying in, but you definitely have to carve out some time aside from lunch break to get some studying in.
Yeah, and that's the big thing is when you're trying to transition careers, no matter what it is. Like even for instance, say I wanted to leave cybersecurity and go into law or cyber law, I'd have to know the laws, which means I would have to take time away from my family to do that career transition, or I'd have to stay up late while my wife is sleeping either on the couch or in the bed and do that studying. Like it would be one of the two. So either you're taking time from family or you're taking time from sleep, because you can't take time from work a lot of the time because you got a job and you got to make money in order to support your family. And so you see these things and you got to understand that any type of career transition or career growth is going to take that time away from something. You just got to choose where you're taking that time from. Or you're going to bed earlier and waking up earlier. That way you wake up early in the morning, do whatever studying you need to do, and then get to work. You got to be able to schedule that time. But if you don't schedule it, if you're not constantly trying to progress your career or transition careers by studying, then you're never going to be able to do what you want. You're not going to be able to progress, or you're not going to be able to transition. And that's where people fail. That's where they fall short, is they don't have that drive to like carve out that time in one portion of the day or the other.
So I got a question for you. It just kind of popped up in my head. So like, how do you or how have you dealt with, when you are studying and you're putting that time in, but you just feel like you're stuck in the mud. You don't feel like you're making any progress.
So let me remind you, or I don't know if I didn't tell you this, but I've stated it on several occasions. I failed my CCNA 3 times. Before I got into cybersecurity, I was going for my CCNA. I failed it 3 times before I passed the 4th. For me, it was a matter of, again, knowing your why. That's how I get through the mud. That's how I figure it out. Why am I doing this? For instance, this show. Let's take that for instance. So last week, I was in a rut. Anybody who knows me didn't see me on social media. A few people reached out, but regardless, they didn't see me. I didn't really post much. I was kind of like, whatever. I don't care. I was in a very bad spot mentally. But I know my why. And so I sat here and was like, you know what? I got Misha on this week. I'm going to be there for her. Just like studying. If I got something that I want to learn and it's going to get my family in a better position or put me mentally in a better position, I'm going to push through and learn it. I'm going to find that drive. I may have to take a day off.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. You're going to need that time away every so often. And I appreciate that. You have to take time away. But you're going to find, if you don't get back at it, then you've already given up.
Right.
You've already said, I'm never going to do it. But I don't have quit in me. Like, I don't quit. And it just doesn't happen. If I want something, I'm going for it. I'm going for it full bore. And so I'm going to sit there and be like, you know what? I need a day away. But tomorrow, I still have that same scheduled time. I'm going to get back at it and go into it and figure it out. And that's all it is knowing your why. I got a family I got to support. So I got to keep getting better and growing and doing more. Some people don't have a family. Okay. But you want the newest car, or you want the best computer, or you want this, that, and the third, or You want to be an influencer. I fucking hate that term. But you want to be an influencer or quote unquote expert. Whatever the case may be, well, then you have to have that why to get there.
Right.
Whatever your why is, if you don't know it, you're screwed.
That's
You better damn well find it. Because that why is what's going to drive you on through every obstacle you face. Mine is my family. It always will be. My wife and kids are always going to be my why.
That's fact.
And like for me, it's helping people.
Mm-hmm.
Like I do this just like I'd help my kids. And that's kind of why I say my family, because to me, this community is my family as well. They're my extended family. Exactly. Anybody who wants to get into this field belongs here. You just got to be able to push for it. You got to be willing to put in the work. Nothing in life is easy if it's worth it.
Exactly.
If it's easy, it's not worth it.
I mean, you gotta look at it. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. You know, that's the way that kind of goes. Like,
yep.
So definitely got to put in the work. Like that's what I've had to learn. Like I said, you can be sharp, you can be a great test taker, but if you can't talk the talk and back up that paperwork in the interview, you're probably not going to get an offer extended.
And that's it. Like I got my first, I'd say not high paying, but decent paying job out of the Army.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't 6 figures yet. I got it not because of what I knew, because of the passion to learn and to keep learning it. And to be honest, it was a senior role. It was a senior engineer role. I was making good money. And that first year after, I made even more money because the company I worked for at the time didn't do raises based on percentage. They said, we'll give you what you're worth. Apparently, I was worth a hell of a lot more than I was getting paid, because it turned out to be a hell of a lot more than what I was getting paid at the time. But it was one of those things where I had the passion and drive, and I could just keep learning and growing. And if you told me I needed to know something, I'd know it. I got in trouble by the Air Force, by my chief at the time, because they said, hey, I need you to know this program. And I'm like, all right, cool. Ins and outs. I knew everything about it. I was the help desk for the G20 summit. Not intentionally, but then he got mad and he goes, you can't let them know you know what you know, because then it makes the rest of us look bad. You told me to know this shit, so I fucking know it. I don't know what else to tell you, homie. Like, what do you want from me? I did what you told me to do. So, like, that's one of those things. Like, you have to be able to just keep going. And for me, it's all about passion and drive. And these days, it's helping people, helping companies, helping individuals, like lifting them up and making them realize they belong. That's why I go talk to my son's high school. That's why I'd love to go talk to more schools. I just got to reach out and actually fucking do it. Unfortunately, I'm lazy and I send an email sometimes. And I'm like I look at it, I'm like, man, I got a ton of work to do, and I got to post on social media, and I got to advertise stuff. Do I really have time for this email? It's a 30-second email. Yes, I have fucking time. But and I'm like, shit, I really got to do this. So it's really like one of those things where I love helping others. I love helping companies. Whether or not they take my advice, it's a moot point. But I'm going to give you the advice, and it's on you to take it. Just like people. My parents did the same shit to me. I'm going to give you advice. It's on you to take it. If you don't take it, all right, you're lost. Your fault. But I'm going to give you advice.
Bought sense is the best sense.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever heard that, but like usually if it hits you in your pocketbook, you tend to remember it a lot better than just mom and dad scolding.
Oh, it hit my pocketbook.
So I know we're getting close to our time, but one other thing, and I mean, not really a question, but I know this was something that would throw me off. It's like you see a role and it's senior, and you immediately, once again, like, man, I ain't got enough time in the industry to be, like I had to overcome that, like, and you know, it's a mindset, it's a mental thing, but don't tell yourself no. Let them tell you no.
And that's a big thing. So I will give you a final question, but I will agree with you there. Do not be the one that does not get you hired. Because so much in our lives, so much of what we do is on us. Our mistakes, our failures, our refusal to apply for jobs, to do different things, to actually take a chance. We take ourselves out of the running before anybody else does. We're like, I'm not going to get that. It's not going to happen. You know, we don't take a chance on something. We don't take the risk because we're afraid of failure. Dude, we're going to fail. Shit happens. Fail is first attempt in learning. Fucking just do it.
Right.
Just do it. So don't be afraid. And I know it's hard to say that. Like me being me, I failed. I fucked up. Shit happens.
Man, I don't
I'm
know.
here for everybody.
You
and that's the way I look at it.
So
before we go, Brandon, I know you said that, but before we go, I want your final words to the audience that loves you so much. We had a lot of people tune in tonight. There were a bunch of people in chat. Apparently, Finding Your Why is big by Sinek. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm big on Finding Your Why. First episode of Walk With Me podcast. Kevin, I'll drink that one for you because I finally said it live on air. It was all about finding your why. But saying that, what are your final words, Brandon? Something for the audience.
Man, all I got to say is I know it's Friday. Thank you all for tuning in and listening to us and just, you know, being there for support. Anybody out there that's listening that's questioning whether or not they can do it, you can do it. Like, don't give up. If what you've been doing hasn't worked, find someone who is successful or who is making progress in the area that you are interested in, and reach out and make that connection. Very few people have I reached out to on LinkedIn and them not be helpful. For the most part, everybody's helpful. You might have some that'll try to sell you something, but you know, just that's up to you whether you buy it or not.
I sell you my podcast.
I mean, but you know, other than that, don't give up. Keep going, and as everybody sees, there's still tons of jobs in cyber that need to be filled. So keep applying, and I'll see y'all on LinkedIn and around.
Definitely, Brandon. Hey, look, for everybody out there, it's been an amazing episode of Security Happy Hour. Brandon here is trying to break into GRC. So if you got a role for him or Blue Team, preferably GRC from what he says, please reach out to him on LinkedIn. His link is in the description down below on YouTube. Otherwise, y'all take care. Next week, I've got an Army veteran coming on next week, good buddy of mine. He's not necessarily new to the field like I've been pushing, but he's just getting out of the Army here in a few years. So we're going to have him on anyways because he scheduled his time before I pushed for new people. So still a good buddy of mine we're going to have on Kirk next week. It'll be an amazing episode. So as always, live next week, Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Please make sure to join us live on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and or LinkedIn. We will be here. Otherwise, take care. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next one.
All right.